Good morning. This is Neil Buchanan with Rock Our World. I'm having a whole bunch of technical difficulties. Anyway, I got something working here, so I'll try and carry on. I got awakened at 1 this morning, and I think it's 5. Anyway, my computer shut down, and well, it had to update a bunch of stuff off of Windows, and I don't understand all this stuff, but I know enough that I didn't shut anything off. It took 2 hours. Give me lots of time to think about what to do next, and then I couldn't get my camera going, so here I just pushed a bunch of buttons until something happened, and here I think I got a camera going. So I think this Four Horses of the Apocalypse will end up 2 more programs. I'll try and speed as much as I can, and if it's a little bit hazy, there's 2 ways to go with this. You have too much explanation and kind of lose where you're going, and then too little. It's too vague, but the sweet spot in the middle, I can always fill in, pieces that seem a little short later. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it in 2 more episodes. So it'll be Four Horses of the Apocalypse 1, 2, and 3. So here's number 2. I had quite a bit of time these 2 hours I was shut down, or the computer was updating, to think about how to approach this. So we'll see what the Lord gives me as I talk. I started with this whole thing that I feel the Lord wants me to do this today because He's going to do something really amazing on the 15th. And I had some ideas, like amazing maybe is understated. These are just ideas, but a couple of things that came to me that there's going to be a huge earthquake or a tsunami or both, and we're going to have a lot of destructive things going on. Anyway, that's pretty scary sounding stuff, so I kind of hope it's not true, but these things are going to happen as the last days unfold. And I'm going to tie in Dave Damien's ministry and Nita Johnson's ministry with all this. And I'm going to start with I don't know, a prophetic announcement, I guess, something that happened 16 years ago. The Lord stirred me up 16 years ago, and I wrote a book called Rock My World. Like what this YouTube is Rock Our World. But 16 years ago, I wrote this book, and my wife helped me. I would say she wrote the book. I scratched down a bunch of words, and she got it on a Word document of some kind, and we took it to a printer and made 80 copies, and I'm saying about 40 of them are in a landfill somewhere, and 10 of them are somewhere not being read, and then the other 30 are in my basement. But looking back now, there's 2 things. The Lord, I didn't understand completely at the time. The Lord plants seeds like that. He's a farmer. He created the creation. The seeds go like this. You put the seed in the ground. A farmer knows this. You don't expect crop the next day. What has to happen is the seed has to die itself, but it sends up a shoot, and the shoot is the new life. The seed's the dead part. The germ got something going, but the seed's now gone and dead. Its leftovers are kind of nutrients to get this new life going, and it pushes through the ground, grows a top, goes through a long, I don't know, like wheat takes about 100 days completion. Other crops, barley's a bit shorter, and eventually it grows a head, and then the head fills with grain, and then you harvest it, and you got fruit. Now that's wheat. Other plants, like fruit trees, take several years. We're supposed to wait till the 4th year. The first fruit comes in the 4th year, but you're not supposed to eat it. It falls down and probably fertilizes it and bump starts something going on. But anyway, there's probably some tree out there or some type of thing that actually takes 16 or 15 years before it produces its first crop. Anyway, that's what happened here. the Lord gave me this book to write, and I feel it was supposed to go, in looking back, to 3 specific people. And those 3 people are and were, I hope they're all still alive. I know Larry Seaman is. He was my pastor at the time, and it was for him. And also, it was for Dave Damien. I handed a copy. I put it right in his hand. He didn't have a clue who I was, of course. So he got it in his hand, and the third person was Denny Kramer. And I have this sense that they either read it or glanced through it and rejected it to some degree, and that's the moment where their ministries went flat. And if these 3 people will, and Larry's not 2, he's a little different category because I've just been working with him the last week, and he's coming along real well. And he in the years since has come to see that the festivals of the Lord and the things of the Torah are important. And I feel he's going to come up to speed real quickly. He's giving his testimony tomorrow. I'll probably be the interviewer. And Larry's going to do great. He's going to be one of the lead guys in what the Lord's doing here in southern Saskatchewan. The end times are starting right here in southern Saskatchewan, and I wrote that in that book. Anyway, Dave Damien, I don't think he accepted what I said, and he also knows that the Torah and the festivals are very important. And I'm not sure where Denny Kramer is, but he's a very, very anointed prophet of God, and he gave Pat and I wonderful, accurate words of prophecy that many of them are coming to fulfillment right now as we speak in these last few months and last year. And so, again, pointing that the seeds had to go in the ground 16 years ago, 15, and now they're bearing fruit. So these 3 people are being challenged by the Lord to, if they still have the copy of the book, go reread it. But probably a quicker way is to watch all my videos here, these episodes, and get stirred up, especially to read the scriptures. Start in Genesis and read right through the Revelation. And for anybody, Jewish people watching, get a copy of the Aramaic English New Testament, written by Ross. Get a hold of that. It's not very good, but it's the best we got, and we're praying that the Lord puts together a better rendition from the original Aramaic, and also a better rendition from the original Hebrew. And anyway, the Jewish people, get a hold of that and read everything. Give it a fresh look, because we misrepresented Jesus. He didn't do away with the law. He didn't do a whole pile of stuff we said he did. He supported the law 100%. And he didn't come with a different message, and he is Yahweh. He is, 1 Corinthians 10:4 says he is the God that led the children of Israel through the Red Sea and through the wilderness, and obviously gave the Torah to Moses on Mount Sinai, and he never changes, ever, ever, ever. He said that in no uncertain terms, I change not. And that is and was Yahweh, Yeshua, and who we nicknamed Jesus Christ. We'll blame that on the Greek translators. So, these 3 people, I'm hoping they get this message real quick and they reignite their ministries, and we'll get this thing rolling again, their thing rolling again. And okay, what else do I have to say here before I get into the 4 horses? So I'm going to take you to a setting 16 years ago, 15, somewhere in there. Dave Damien was in town in Regina here at the Lighthouse Church, and Nita Johnson was there with him. And they're both very key people in all this, what I'm going to talk about. Dave had shared his testimony a few times. I heard it in Winnipeg, and probably this was the second time I heard it. And his testimony was very specific, that God had picked him. He's an Egyptian, had him marry a Canadian, and he had this revelation from the Lord that Canada was a very, very important nation on the face of the earth as the last days unfold. And I heard this testimony a couple of times, and anyway, I was sitting outside the parking lot at the Lighthouse Church here in Regina, and it was cold. It was winter, whether it was late fall or winter or whatever it was cold, and I started the car. It was late. It was David had presented what he had, and Nita Johnson had talked, and she had a book there, The Ever Speaking Voice of God, and it's very awesome. Get a hold of it. Lots of visions of what's going to happen to the United States and Canada in the very, very near future, starting today, starting March 22nd. So already passed. Some things are in motion that are very scary here. Sorry, my lights went out. Get them going again here. There we go. And anyway, I'm sitting there in the car and I say, Lord, if this is true, if Canada has this really important role in the last days, wouldn't it be in the scriptures? Wouldn't you have said something? And I'm going to say that was getting near midnight. I tended to get up around 4 to do my studying, and I love the quietness and just me and the Lord and the scriptures, and he showed me where Canada was in the scriptures and the United States, and it is Zechariah 6, 1 to 8. And so I had these 2 hours to think this through. I haven't read these, like this was 16 years ago I went through this, and it was so amazing that I asked the question, and the Lord showed me very specifically where Canada is. So I'll walk you through it best I can by memory as you go through Zechariah 6, 1 to 8, and then jump forward to Revelation 6, 1 to 8. These are the 4 horses. The 4 horses, I'll do a bit of preamble here. The 4 horses are all described in Revelation what they are, except the white horse. And the white horse is a little more detailed how to describe it. In worldwide, we used to say, oh, that's false religion. Well, number one, white is never false. It's always truth. It's always light. So the white, in Revelation, this rider is on the horse, whereas back in Zechariah, they're horses pulling chariots. So they're 2 different things. They're the same, but they're different. And what I'm going to say is there's actually 7 events here, starting in Saskatchewan. The first event is a black horse, which has already started, which is economic destruction and downturn in the economy, depression, which is getting worse and worse and worse, especially in Western Canada here, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, and Manitoba, all very depressed economies. All our major industries are flat and getting worse, and that is not going to recover. I'm going to just say that straight up. We are going to get worse and worse and worse. Our economy will never recover until the kingdom comes. It will just get worse and worse and worse, and it'll spread worldwide. It'll be an economic collapse worldwide. It'll take 10 years from 10 years. I'll explain further. I got to speed this up a little bit. So the first event was that black horse, which is economic destruction. It rides in Saskatchewan specifically and Western Canada, and it's followed promptly by the white horse. But I kind of think the second horse that God describes is the one that goes down into the States. But the very first line in this whole section, Zechariah saw these horses in some kind of trees. What kind of trees were they? Won't come to me. But anyway, what he saw was 2 mountains, which are 2 nations, and they were of brass, which means judgment. So what God's saying is he's judging 2 nations. He's judging the United States, and he's judging Canada. And the judgment on United States is extremely harsh. It'll be completely destroyed. And as one prophecy puts it, Egypt, which is the United States in prophecy, the cities of Egypt will lie waste for 40 years. So that's the 40 years that we wander in the wilderness. But the 10 years leading up to it, Nita Johnson saw all this. The states, the cities were basically virtually all of them destroyed. The angel of destruction rode from city to city and set them on fire. And the whole borderline, or the shoreline of the state, shrunk way, way in. And that's why I mention this, that this major event, and it might even happen tomorrow. I kind of hope not. I mean, this is pretty scary stuff. There's a huge, whether it's, well, it couldn't be global warming to happen that quickly, but a huge earthquake and a tsunami, whether a landmass collapses into the sea somewhere, there's a lot of potential places for that, or just a big earthquake under the ocean sends this tsunami, and a huge wave just washes inland everywhere, destroying all the sea cities, like New York, all of California, you name it. There's lots in Canada too, Vancouver, and a lot of the eastern cities in Canada. Anyway, it entails affecting a lot of people and a lot of deaths. Anyway, that sounds pretty scary, but anyway, Nita saw this, and it is going to happen. I don't know the timing, but Nita saw all this stuff in visions over the years, that the Lord gave these things all to her, and the States is completely destroyed. It's occupied by Oriental people, and I expect that'll be China. China basically owns States anyway, and a lot of Canada too, to be truthful. And they are an aggressive nation, and anyway, we'll see what happens. But these things are going to happen within the next 10 years. And I'm being a little dogmatic here, but if I got egg in my face, I'll just wipe it off and keep going, right? So we're at 17 minutes. I better, okay, I'm going to carry on with Zechariah. So the two horses, the first horse is economic depression in the north, but it's Western Canada. Actually, all of Canada is quite depressed economically. But we're going into a deep depression. And then the dappled horse, which is death and disease and all kinds of bad things happening, goes into the States, and really bad stuff, really harsh judgment on the States. And then the third horse is the white one. And this is the one that it takes a little longer to describe what it is, because in the book of Revelation, it tells what the other three horses are. The red one we haven't got to yet, but it's war. Just war. It starts in the States, I'm going to say. Occupation of the States by China, I'm going to guess, or Oriental nation. Nita saw them. They were Oriental. And then in Canada, I'm thinking we're going to be supernaturally protected, but it's going to be tough. And this white horse follows the economic depression. And what the white horse is, it's a rider. I'm just going to turn my truck on. I'm getting a little cold here. The rider has a crown, which means it has authority. It's going to accomplish what it was set out to do by the Lord. And it's carrying a bow, which seems a little odd because there's no arrows. So now we go to a different scripture to interpret that. And I think that's found in Zechariah, but a word search will get you there real quick. And what the Lord says is, Judah is my bow, and Ephraim is my arrow. Or I'll fill the bow with Ephraim. And the metaphor is this: a bow and an arrow. The Jewish people are Judah, and they have one thing distinctly that nobody else has, and that's the Torah. So the bow is Torah, and then the Ephraim, which also means the house of Israel, are the Christians, and they have one thing that nobody else has, and that's Jesus, who is Yeshua, and who also turns out he's the God of the Old Testament, if we want to put it that way. Because the Father's always been sitting on his throne directing everything. So Jesus, Yeshua, Yahweh, whoever you want to, Shiloh, he's the one, along with the Holy Spirit, who is implemented right from Adam and Eve, and before that, for all eternity. They're the two that implemented what the Father says to do. So there was always Jesus interacting with humans, with Adam, and so on. Oh, now I got on a rabbit trail there. Get back. So there's two metaphors, two interpretations, two things to put together. That this white horse, this rider, carrying a bow, getting back to Zechariah, the white horse is carrying this. So it's the spread of the Torah. It's the all of a sudden the veil's taken away. The Lord takes the veil away from people, and they understand that the Torah is important, and they start studying it, start doing the stuff, quit eating pigs, start keeping the festivals, the Sabbath day, the New Moon Festival according to God's calendar, not the Jewish calendar or the Christian calendar. Those are all bogus. And Enoch got kicked out of the Bible because, well, Satan did it, but God let him do it because it's part of the restoration of all things to restore these things. So anyway, this white horse, its first ride is not the book of Revelation. It's back in Zechariah. He's pulling these chariots. The white horses are pulling this chariot, but the metaphors and the descriptions are all right there. The white horse means the spread of the Torah. And there's no arrow because we got to start with the understanding that the Torah is not done away with before we add in who Jesus really was. Yeshua. He really was and is the God that's second in command under the Father. And he never changes. And the Torah has always been legitimate. It will stand and eternally established in heaven. That's Psalm 119. Look those things up. Get good with your sword. See, I'm at 21 minutes, so I'll try and wrap up these 7 rides. Okay, the first ride, we'll rehearse this again. The first ride was the black horse in Canada, Western Canada. The second ride was destruction of the states, pale horse. Third ride was back in Canada. The white horse follows the economic depression. There's nothing like a good shot at the pocketbook and get us on our knees to accept truth. So the truth of the Torah is revealed and taught in Western Canada, starting with the pastors have already been awakened. Larry Seaman is going to be one of the first ones, and a couple of churches in town. One has been already talked to, and I'm not sure what he's doing, but whether he's going with it or not. And I think the second one is the Victory Church. I'll probably meet him real quick. Anyway, there's 1/10 of the pastors will go along with this, and the rest will be disqualified by the Lord, and he has already raised up and trained many, many others that will take their place. And you read Ezekiel 34 to see the details of this, that the Lord is getting rid of the ones he never put there, the ones that are just hirelings, and he's putting in place the people with a true shepherd's heart, like my good friend Larry Seaman has a true shepherd's heart. And he has some awesome gifts developing there, gift of prophecy and a discerning of spirits, which is very unusual for a man to have. My wife has a very clear and awesome gift of the discerning of spirits, which is very important in a church. So every church needs at least one of these people that can discern spirits. They can sniff out a bad guy, a guy that has an unclean spirit stuck to him, a spirit of any kind that is blinding his life. And the solution isn't to get rid of the guy; it's to get rid of the spirit. Okay, so that's what the gifts are for, to build up the body, not to beat people up. It's actually to release them from being beaten up by the devil. So get back to my horses. So that's the third one. The Torah is released in southern Saskatchewan. My job is to oversee all this, and I'm talking way out there, right? I had Denny Kramer told me I was a man of God over southern Saskatchewan. So my wife has told me that I'm an apostle, a sent one, and that I would be overseeing the distribution or the giving or the announcement of the Torah and all the details in southern Saskatchewan, and then it will spread over the entire world from there. Canada will always be a protected nation within the end times, and Israel, of course, is the most important nation on earth, Jerusalem being the most important city on the face of the earth. But second to that is Canada, and then there will be 5 other nations that will be special and protected. They will be the fulfillment of the 12 cities of refuge. There's 6 within Israel. Probably Jerusalem and Tel Aviv will be 2 of them. All right, for sure Israel will be one of them. I mean, Jerusalem will be one of them. Tel Aviv possibly or probably one of the other 4. Very special things and very special protection for these cities where people can come to be protected from the devil and who's trying to kill them. And they'll be equipped and refreshed and sent out into the enemy territory to take back territory from the enemy. And in Canada is going to be one of those outside the borders of Israel. There will be 6 nations outside the borders, Canada being one, the first among those. There will be 6 cities within the borders of Israel, Jerusalem being the first one, and others, 5 others beside them. So that's a total of 12, as the Lord predicted or prophesied. That's in Torah. You'll find those 12 cities of refuge on either side of the Jordan, meaning the borders of Israel. Anyway, I'm at 26 minutes. I better get these last. So we're at 3 horses here, giving it the Torah. The 4th horse is the red horse, which is war. So war doesn't just come to Canada and the United States. And I kind of think Canada will be protected. So, it'll touch us. It'll be scary times for the whole world, but it'll completely overcome the States. The States will be in absolute total ruin for 40 years. And then the Lord will start rebuilding the USA, and they will, again, be an important part of God's plan in the 1,000 years and on into eternity. Anyway, a very harsh correction for the States. I'm just going to throw in this. There is some speculation that Obama and the present Pope are the beast and the false prophet. And I'm tending to think that could be accurate. So anyway, another prophetic word there, whether it's true or not, whether I got lots of egg to wipe off my face or not, none at all. And so we're at the war, which spreads to the whole world now. So that's the 4th event in the 4 horses. There's actually 7 rides here. The 4th one is just one ride for the war, and it just continues right through to the return of Christ 50 years later. And then now we skip to the book of Revelation, where the white horse rides first, and war just continues the whole time. It just never stops. So the 5th ride in this scenario is the white horse. So the Torah spreads throughout the whole earth, taught to all the nations. Everybody gets a chance to accept it or reject it. Everybody gets to know. Everybody. And in the course of these 50 years, 9/10 of everybody's going to die. So it sounds pretty scary. But remember, God's going to make everybody alive again. You're not just to fear the first death, but the second death. 28 minutes, I better cut this off. Quickly go through then there's 2 more horses after that. That the pale horse, the black horse, I think, is next in Revelation, which is economic ruin and destruction, and the economy collapses worldwide. And then the dappled horse, which is kind of work hand in hand, death and destruction for the whole earth. Like there's so many people that die, they can't keep up to burying the bodies, and those scriptures are there. So get your word engines going, your word search apps on your phones. It's really easy to get one. And I better sign off here, and I got one left to do. Neil Buchanan with Rock Our World. Daniel 2.